Hello everyone, my name is Don and welcome to another iteration of the Rocket Knight Adventures trilogy. This time it's Sparkster on the Super Nintendo. The spin-off game on a different system which acts more like the sequel than the actual sequel. So how does Sparkster on the Super Nintendo fare? Well, it looks like Rocket Knight Adventures, it plays like Rocket Knight Adventures with a few tweaks. Well, for one thing, you could use the evolution of human technology at the time, the shoulder keys, in order for Sparkster to do some extra attacks. You press the left key, Sparkster will do a leap/left. You press the right key, Sparkster will leap/right. So you have those extra attacks. You also have the standard sword strike, which goes back to the RKA1 formula, thank God, where you have a beam. The sword, however, is still not as strong as the first game. You cannot multi-hit people with one fell swoop, which is unfortunate. You scream like a bitch. Anyway, here's the first mini-boss, Robot. I don't know this thing's name. He's got a couple of different attacks, and most of them involves him jumping around and butt bouncing. And kicking. Easy enough to get around him by using your rockets. Oh yeah, that's some Super Nintendo slowdown right there. This game has a lot of that. Sometimes the slowdown can work to your benefit because projectiles come out super quickly. In fact, this game runs so quickly that I swear the Super Nintendo Entertainment System cannot handle this at all. Am I amazed it works on the system? Yes, because this is a great game, but also I'm kind of terrified that it does. Your rocket boosters in this game also go back to RKA1 formula where you could just only boost once, and you have to hold down the charge. That also means the return of the uncontrolled fall if you fly straight up. Now, you can actually mitigate this. Using the L and R buttons will get you out of such a situation, but you press those buttons too many times in quick succession, then Sparkster will freeze up. That's a means to balance the game because that attack is pretty overpowered. Sparkster's ground speed is still on the slower side, but at least he doesn't slide around like in Rocket Knight 2. I will never understand the slippery controls of Rocket Knight 2, honestly. Why? Why? Anyway, we should be closing in on the Stage 1 boss, which is another giant robot. This game loves giant robots. You scream like a bitch! And speaking of bitches, it's Axel Gear again. And of course, the robot just cock-blocked our friendly neighborhood Rocket Knight. The first boss of the game is a bit tricky because he shoots a lot of lasers, and he doesn't really give the player enough opportunity to hit him back. That faceplate will occasionally block your dash. So you gotta watch out for that, as well as the long-ass laser and the plethora of different enemies on the screen. Not sure how you can not get hit during this fight. And lucky me, I survived with half a heart left. What is this, Mega Man? Yeah! Alright, on to Stage 2. This is where the game gets mean. Sparkster, unlike the previous Sparkster game on Sega, employs a lot more, how shall I say, one-hit kill traps. The Steel Mill stage is the beginning of that. Now the hot lava or steel is not one-hit kill, so you don't have to worry about that. What is one-hit kill are these press machine things that will come up later in the level. Now these things come up quickly and kind of out of nowhere too. Like you could be dashing along and all of a sudden you just get Looney Tunes crushed to death. It's kind of weird. Get up there, man, come on! The Super Nintendo soundtrack of Sparkster is fantastic, but the exclusive music for the Super Nintendo, like this track right here, it's alright. Like the 16-bit renditions of the Genesis soundtrack, I think I like those over the Genesis soundtrack itself. But some of the exclusive songs on the Super Nintendo tend to be more hit or miss. We should be coming close to the first death trap of the stage, and like I said before, it comes super quick right there. It comes out of nowhere, and if you're going too quickly, you will die. There is a bit of trial and error when it comes to Sparkster, especially compared to the first two games. Now that I think about it, Sparkster, Rocket Knight Adventures 2 is just overall the hardest game in the series, and Sparkster is probably the hardest to learn. It's mainly because this game is more trap heavy, and there is this one boss later on in the game that is... what the hell? Here's a safe haven for health if you need it. Surprisingly, I had some health missing, but not much. An elevator segment? And a platformer? No! That laser thing does not crush you. In fact, I don't even know what the attack is, because I don't even give it the chance to attack. Anyway, this part coming up reminds me of Total Recall, the NES game, even though I think this exact screen was in the Arnold Schwarzenegger movie itself. It's a giant screen that shows the shadowy silhouettes of the characters, which is pretty cool. And in between these two screens, Sparkster was painted red by this paintbrush thing. That's just a minor sprite change. The controls do not get hindered in any way. Anyway, here's the stage's boss. It's a giant trash tank with arms. I'm not even joking when I say that. The arms can block your attacks and you cannot destroy them. The goal is to dash into the robot's head area, and you can do this either one of two ways. The first way being to time the dash so that you can slip through the robot's arms and hit the main body, or the safe but tedious method being to hit the robot from above by using the bar up top. The arms will have a harder time reaching Sparkster if he's up there, but not all the time though. You do have to keep your distance from this boss, because the arms tend to hit you over and over again. Like right there. Here's a fun fact. Only two of Sparkster's finished sprites in this game smile, but one of those smiles is upside down. Which means there's only one point in this whole game, one very specific point where Sparkster actually smiles. Every other time, Sparkster is pissed off. Or he's affected by gravity, in which case he's smiling upside down. That doesn't count. Welcome to Stage 3, the high-speed section. I don't know what they were smoking when they came up with this stage, but this area is crazy. The controls for Overdrive Ostrich here are pretty much the same as they were on foot, only except you use the L and R buttons to turn Sparkster's sprite around. You cannot do the rolling attacks on the Ostrich, even though you can still dash in the air, however. Enemies in this stage range from mechanized birds that fly in the air to these wolf soldiers that fly in the air too, both of which try to team up in order to take you out. As you can see, the Super NES, a system not known for fast-moving action, has a pretty frenetic stage where everything is moving super quickly. It's almost like blast processing doesn't exist. Honestly, blast processing is a bit of an overstatement. Does anybody know what blast processing truly is? Other than the Sega Genesis processor has a quicker processing speed than the Super Nintendo, sure, that's what that is. But why'd they call it blast processing? And also the fact that most Sega Genesis games did not take full advantage of that blast processing is kinda strange. I mean, sure, you have your Contras and your Alien Soldiers and Sonics that take full advantage, but nothing else seemed to have done that. Anyway, this mini-boss is a joke. You just ram into him over and over again and see Wolfman run! That guy runs like a bitch. Actually, I think that wolf guy comes back in a later boss and then he dies for real in that boss fight. So this won't be the last time we're seeing that guy. Here's a heavily patternized sequence here. In order to avoid those spikes, you have to go ahead of the screen a bit. And for this upcoming segment, the bridge will start to collapse. So what you have to do is run ahead of the screen in order to not fall into the pit. In this portion right here, the enemies start to come from left and right. You just slash to the left and right in order to destroy them. They go down in one hit. And after these enemies, that's where the boss comes in. It's Caterkiller. Honestly, I made that up. I don't know what this enemy's name is. This boss is on the more difficult side, only because his pieces actually hurt you when they come off. So there's a whole bunch of different things in motion all at once. All the while, the boss will shoot these flamethrowers that are aimed downwards. The broken pieces will still shoot these flamethrowers, but they're aimed up. And you cannot touch any of these things without getting damaged. So what I like to do here is I pick the boss apart one by one. Also gotta watch out for the bombs that the caterpillar likes to shoot out from its mouth. And sometimes the boss will shoot out fruits instead of bombs, that way you can get some health back from whatever bullshit attack you suffered from. And if you think this is the only phase of this boss fight, you're wrong! Phase 2 is where things may seem like they're easier, but it's not. The boss gets harder. This is where Caterkiller starts to bounce around, and he'll shoot this flamethrower attack that's really hard to avoid because you're kind of stuck in one location. Granted, you can jump around in a mech to try to avoid the flamethrower, but the attack lingers on screen for a bit, so it's kind of hard to dodge. But the good thing is, the boss goes down in about 3 to 4 hits. I'll see you guys in part 2 of Sparkster.